And we back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. This might be the reflection. This episode, I don't think I've ever done an episode just on the Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi. Mahavakya means great phrase, and there are 4 Mahavakyas. Great phrases that sum up the entirety of the philosophy of Vedanta in a single phrase. The oldest one is Prajnanam Brahma, which means consciousness is Brahman, or in full plain English, consciousness is the vast, or the vast. Brahman means the vast. The vast is consciousness. So that which is consciousness. All else is not. The second oldest Mahavakya, that comes from the Rig Veda. The second of the 4 Vedas, each one has its own great phrase that sums up the whole philosophy. At the end of each Veda, you have the Upanishads, the concise crystallized philosophy at the end of each of the 4 oldest philosophical textbooks in the world, the Vedas. And each Veda has its own Mahavakya, great phrase, all pointing to the same thing in just another way of saying it. And speaking of the Rig Veda, the oldest of the Vedas, it has a famous quote within it, "Of truth is one, sages call it by many names." So these are all pointers to the same thing. And the Rig Veda would go so far as to say every major tradition is pointing to the same thing. Truth is one, sages call it by many names. The second Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi, which, again, these are all in Sanskrit, but the plain English, to take off that exotic Sanskrit from it, the plain English is I am Brahman. I am the vast. I am the vast. This phrase pointing us towards what we are, the vast, the infinite. It's one of the oldest philosophical concepts in human history, and yet being told that you are the vast, the infinite. I never heard anything like that until I was 30. It's taboo. It is sacrosanct to even think that, much less say it, much less have it be a great phrase within a world tradition telling you, you are the infinite. The third Mahavakya, and all of these come from about the same time period, thousands of years ago in India, predating Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, predating all of these world traditions and sitting at the source of nearly all Eastern philosophy, these Vedas, these 4 philosophical textbooks. The third Mahavakya, which is perhaps the most famous, is Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art. This is from the Chandogya Upanishad. You don't need to know any of this stuff, but it's from a teacher talking to a student, summing up the entirety of this philosophy, of the worldview, according to that teacher, according to the galaxy of sages within Advaita Vedanta, that thou art. As Alan Watts would colloquially say, you're it. You are what you are seeking. You are it. From a teacher to a student, from an individual to another, from the infinite to the seemingly finite. This Mahavakya has become the most famous because it is the one that you can deliver to another or can be delivered to you. There are 2 main reasons that this Mahavakya has become the most famous. One, it can be imparted from any teacher to any student. That thou art. Teacher is not necessarily going to impart I am Brahman and have as much of a resonance with a student because ultimately the student is there to learn about themselves. And it's directly relatable. This is the second reason it's perhaps the most famous of all of the Mahavakyas, is it has to do with everyone's favorite subject, themselves. Teacher talking to you about you. an enlightened soul talking to you about you. Ooh, it's so tempting for even the most egotistical of ourselves, the most egoic of us out there. Our antenna is always up to talk about ourselves. And this doesn't just talk about you. This says exactly what you are, according to this philosophy. You are that. Capital, infinitely capitalized that. You are that. Tat Tvam Asi. And the last Mahavakya from the Atharva Veda is I am Atma Brahma. It sounds like I'm saying I am, but it's the Sanskrit. I am Atma Brahma, which means the self. This self is Brahman. This identity, this isness, the isness, this capital S self is Brahman, is the vast, is the infinite. So those are the Mahavakyas, the famous great phrases of this philosophy, and they sum up the whole philosophy. Each one is self-contained, much like each Upanishad. Of the 108 sacred ones, there are about 10 that are the most famous, and they all sum up the entire philosophy, even if they're 13 verses, or 60 verses, or 30 verses. Quite concise. They sum up the entirety of the philosophy in the Upanishad. This isn't like the Bible where each book depends on the other books and it's like a library that you need to read. This is just, boom, 15 or 13 verses. In the Mandukya Upanishad, for example, 13 verses, boom. Whole philosophy in 13 verses. But even more concise and just as precise, but quite cryptic. I will give you that is, you can't hear the three words Tat Tvam Asi and say, I've got it. It's quite cryptic. It requires years, decades, maybe lifetimes of meditation on these Mahavakyas to go from hearing what they're saying to understanding what they're saying, but ultimately to experience what they are saying. And all forms and illusions of separateness falling away upon realization, not just hearing or intellectually understanding, but experiencing that you are Brahman, that you are that. But to get to that point of experiencing it, for many of us, we need to hear that message from someone we know and trust over and over and over again, just to even entertain the possibility. Which is why I'm looking forward to the next episode that comes out, because I'm going to let you hear a voice note sent over WhatsApp from our 97-year-old teacher that sent me this WhatsApp about a year ago. And it is the entirety of the philosophy in a voice note. When I asked him, said, hey, Swami, would you mind sending a note that I could give to anybody that I give Vedanta Treatise to, this book right in front of me? And he obliged and sent what might as well be the Parthasarathi Upanishad. It is 30 seconds and the totality of the philosophy in those 30 seconds. And a little bit more explanation than just the Mahavakyas like Tat Tvam Asi. And it is a voice note that is coming from someone that I know and trust. Whether you do or not, I'm going to share it on this podcast project because I listen to it probably every other week. So much gold in each precise word that is chosen from a master in this philosophy. So looking forward to sharing it with you all in the next episode. And that is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.